Everybody like and subscribe, praise the bell icon. Story number 1.
It was the summer of 2016 when Jake and his uncle Rob took their old aluminum boat out to Dead Man's Cove in northern Maine. It was a place Rob used to fish in the 80s, known for its unnatural silence and the way the fog would roll in even on sunny days. Most locals avoided the place, not because of any superstition, but because of what they called bad water, like the fish weren't right there. Sickly. Wrong. Jake thought it sounded like paranoid backwoods nonsense. He was 23, home from college, and looking for quiet, not ghost stories. They set out before sunrise. The mist clung low over the water, thick as milk, swallowing the trees until the shoreline vanished behind them. As they drifted into the cove, the air changed. It went dead still. No birds, no bugs, just the soft lapping of water against the hull. Jake cracked a beer. Rob quietly baited a line and said, "If something bites you real slow, don't yank." Jake laughed, thinking Rob was just being dramatic. He cast his line and waited. The silence pressed in, heavy like a weight on his chest. Minutes stretched. No wind, no sun, just gray. Then something tugged his line. Hard, not a snap, not a sudden jolt, but a steady pull, like whatever was beneath them was sinking back into some trench with his hook in its mouth. Jake started to reel, but Rob grabbed his wrist. "I said slow," he hissed. The line started to unspool faster, as if whatever was on the other end was picking up speed. The reel whined. Jake tried to slow it, but his rod jerked down, almost yanked from his hands. He stood, bracing his legs, trying to see what was beneath them in the water, but it was black. Not just dark, completely lightless, like oil or ink had been poured into the lake. No bottom, no movement. Then he saw it, a face. It surfaced for less than a second, white, bloated, eyes wide and lidless, like it had been underwater for weeks. But its mouth wasn't slack. It was grinning. A human corpse, grinning. Jake screamed and dropped the rod. The line zipped off into the depths, then snapped. Rob didn't say a word. He started the engine immediately and turned the boat around. The ride back was slow. The fog got thicker. Then Jake noticed something was wrong with Rob. His nose had started bleeding. Then his ears. His eyes were red, pupils blown wide. He was whispering something, but it wasn't English. Not words Jake recognized. It sounded like gurgling, like drowning. By the time they reached the dock, Rob collapsed. Jake called 911. They took Rob to the hospital, but he didn't make it through the night. The cause of death was listed as severe hemorrhagic stroke. The doctor said it was like something exploded inside his skull. No prior history, no explanation. Jake didn't tell anyone about the face in the water. A week later, he went back to the lake. He needed answers. Needed to prove to himself that it was stress, a hallucination, anything. He stayed near the cove's edge this time, watching from shore. At exactly 3:13 p.m., the water stilled. The frogs stopped croaking. A single fish washed up on the shore. Its eyes were gone, hollow sockets, like they'd been burned out. Jake turned to leave and saw wet footprints leading from the water, ending right behind where he had been standing. He never went back. But he still dreams about that face. And sometimes he wakes up to wet footprints in his hallway, even though he lives alone, miles from any lake. Dead Man's Cove still exists. Some nights, if you're quiet and the fog's just right, people swear they can hear whispering coming from the water, like something calling out, waiting for a bite.
Story number 2.
It was a cold, gray morning in October when Carter Hensley set out for what would be his last fishing trip. The fog clung low over the water like it didn't want to let go, and the old man at the dock said something odd as Carter untied his skiff. "They're biting deeper than usual," he muttered without looking up. "But they're not what you think." Arter barely acknowledged him. He'd been fishing these parts of Maine for nearly 20 years and wasn't about to be rattled by a local drunk. The lake, Mirrorhead, was isolated, cradled between forested cliffs that never fully thawed even in summer. Locals called it dead glass because it was so still, even in wind. Carter liked that. Less distraction, less current, more control. He was trying for lake trout that day, dropping line after line at about 80 feet. The sonar flickered weirdly, not showing fish, but odd bloated shapes. He thought it might be a glitch, so he ignored it. Then his first catch tugged. It wasn't a clean pull. The line jerked 3 times, then went slack. When he reeled it in, there was no hook, just the line, frayed and shredded, as if something with teeth had chewed straight through the metal. Carter frowned. Lake trout didn't have teeth strong enough to do that. He tied another hook, a bigger one this time, weighted it, dropped it deep. This time, something took it hard enough to nearly yank the rod from his hands. The drag screamed. Carter held on, knuckles white. He fought it for maybe 20 minutes. He thought he was winning, until the pull on the other side suddenly stopped. Just stopped, like whatever was down there had let go on purpose. But when he reeled in, he found something had come up with the line. It was hair. Human hair, wet, matted, and long, tangled into the lure as if it had grown around it. Carter stared, then tossed it overboard in disgust, thinking it had to be some prank, some dumped wig. But even as it hit the water, it didn't float. It sank like it was still attached to something with weight, something that had let go. The sonar pinged again. Something enormous was under him. No shape this time, just a blank zone, like the sonar couldn't see through it. That's when the smell started. Rotted seawater and something else, something coppery. It clung to his skin, made him gag. Carter decided to pull anchor and head back, but the motor sputtered and died. He tried the ignition 3 times, nothing. Then the air got quiet. Not silent, quiet, like the lake swallowed all sound. His breath, the creak of the boat, even the soft chop of water against the hull, gone. Something thumped the bottom of the boat, once, twice. Then a slow dragging scrape. He leaned over to look, but the fog was too thick to see past the edge. The water beneath him was black, not just deep, black like ink. Then something broke the surface behind him. It wasn't fast, it wasn't loud. Just a slow, wet rise of something pale and slick. Carter turned and saw it, just a glimpse before his mind tried to erase it. It looked like a man, but longer, as if stretched. Its arms bent the wrong way at the joints, and its eyes there were too many, not just on its face, but down its throat, across its ribs, clustered around its hands like barnacles. It opened its mouth, and Carter heard something, not with his ears, inside his head, a sound like screaming, but backward. Words he couldn't make out, but they made his nose bleed. He jumped, overboard, into the freezing black. The next morning, the skiff was found drifting in the reeds, empty. Search and rescue dragged the lake for 3 days. Nothing, not even a shoe. The strangest thing was the footage. Carter had rigged a GoPro to his boat for fishing videos. When the investigators retrieved it, the footage cut off at the exact moment the sonar pinged. But the last frame, frozen and corrupted, showed something in the water behind him, just a shadow. Long arms, wide mouth, and dozens of eyes. They say Mirrorhead Lake has no bottom, just keeps going. And sometimes, especially in October, the fog grows thick and the air goes quiet, and you can still hear a line being cast and something breathing beneath.
Story number 3.
It was a quiet summer night on the lake, the kind where the water feels almost like glass, reflecting the moon and stars perfectly. A small group of friends, Jake, Emily, and Mark, decided to go fishing from Jake's father's old boat, which had been sitting unused for years. The air was thick and humid, and a low fog was beginning to creep across the surface. They joked and laughed as they pushed off from the dock, the only sound the gentle lapping of the water against the hull. As they drifted further from shore, the night grew heavier, colder somehow, despite the summer heat. Emily noticed the fish weren't biting, which was strange because this spot was usually teeming with life at night. Suddenly, the water around them darkened unnaturally, as if something was stirring beneath the surface. Mark shivered and said, "Maybe it's just the fog playing tricks on us." But Jake wasn't so sure. He had heard stories about the lake, how people went missing, their boats found empty, or washed up miles away with no sign of struggle. Old fishermen whispered about something living deep below, something that didn't want to be disturbed. Jake tried to laugh it off, but his hands trembled as he cast his line again. Minutes passed, then an unnatural tug on Jake's fishing pole almost yanked him overboard. The rod bent sharply, the reel screaming as something heavy fought on the other end. "Got something big!" Jake yelled, gripping the rod with all his strength. The others watched nervously as Jake struggled to reel in his catch. When the fish finally broke the surface, the friends froze in horror. It wasn't a fish at all. The creature was massive, its skin slick and pale, with eyes that gleamed like polished black stones. Its mouth was filled with rows of sharp, jagged teeth that seemed to stretch impossibly wide. It let out a wet, gurgling hiss that echoed across the water. Suddenly, the boat lurched violently. Emily screamed as the creature slammed against the side, causing the boat to rock dangerously. The fog thickened, swallowing the moonlight and plunging them into darkness. Mark scrambled for the oars, but before he could row away, the creature's long, clawed arm snaked out of the water and grabbed him, pulling him beneath the surface with a splash that sent icy water over the deck. Jake and Emily panicked, trying to start the engine, but it wouldn't turn over. The radio crackled to life with a voice that was distorted and broken, whispering, "You shouldn't be here. The lake keeps what it takes." The words sent chills down their spines. Then the water erupted. The creature rose, towering over them, its body a grotesque mass of scales, barnacles, and something that looked like rotting flesh. Its eyes fixed on Jake and Emily with a cold, merciless hunger. Jake grabbed a fishing knife, holding it out desperately, but it was no use. The boat tipped, and as Emily screamed, the last thing Jake saw was the creature dragging them both into the cold, dark depths where no one ever turned. The next morning, the old boat was found drifting near the shore, empty except for the tangled fishing line and a single blood-stained glove. The lake was calm again, as if nothing had happened. But sometimes, late at night, fishermen say you can hear a faint splash and a gurgling hiss coming from the water, warning all who dare to fish there. The lake keeps its secrets, and it never lets them go.